What is your no? What is your yes? What does God require of us? What does God reject? Today, the prophet Isaiah clearly and kind of emotionally describes those things, what God rejects, what God requires. Hear the word of the Lord, proclaims Isaiah. Yahweh says, I have had enough. Trample my courts no more. Bringing offerings is futile. I cannot endure solemn assemblies with iniquity. Your new moons, your appointed festivals, my soul hates. They have become a burden to me. When you stretch out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Yikes. Can you hear it? God is mad, like really mad. In a few short verses, all of Israel's cultic or religious activity is dismantled and condemned. Yahweh rejects the offering of sacrifice, the celebration of monthly or weekly worship, and even prayer. It's pretty harsh and a shocking message that has the potential to undo an entire religious system. It can be hard to hear Isaiah's message through the disjuncture between our religious system and our spiritual practices and those of ancient Israel. And so translating it a bit into our world, the description of what God so vehemently rejects might sound something like this. I have had enough. Don't go to church anymore. What you offer, the bread, the wine, the money, is futile. I cannot endure your Sunday services. I hate your celebrations like Christmas and Easter. They have become a burden to me. When you reach out to me, I'll turn away. I won't even listen to your prayer. Pretty harsh. God's no is unequivocal. And more, it would be a mistake to think if we simply reject so-called organized religion or church institutions, we're in the clear. But the rejection of spiritual practice deals as much with popular piety as it does with official religion. So in our culture, to say, I'm spiritual but not religious, doesn't actually get us off the hook of Isaiah's message. God isn't rejecting one kind of spiritual practice for another, or maybe he kind of is, but it's not about yoga classes or walks in the woods. God takes issue with all of the piety. It's at the end of verse 15 when we hear the reason for God's great anger. Your hands are full of blood. The conclusion of Isaiah's rant on God's behalf calls attention to the state of the world and our part in it. Writer Omar El-Akkad puts this conclusion in an uncomfortably stark contemporary terms in his recent book, One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This. Originally from Egypt, El-Akkad has lived in North America since he was a teenager. His book is described as his breakup letter with the West, particularly as he reflects on Gaza and the betrayal of the ideals, the West's own ideals. He writes, "The rest of the planet politely pleads with the West's power centers to bridge the gap between its lofty ideals and its blood-stained reality." As I said, thinking of Gaza and so many suffering people all around the world, El-Akkad is heartsick. Heartsick in the way that Isaiah is heartsick when he concludes, your hands are full of blood and God is not pleased. Nevertheless, it's not quite time for us to just run for the doors, because God through Isaiah is not finished. God's yes may yet be as strident as God's no. In verse 16, Isaiah turns a rhetorical corner. writing, "Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes, cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow." Now, broadly speaking, the biblical prophets proclaimed messages of either get your religion right or get your society right. Isaiah is clearly the latter, often described as social justice prophet. God's call is to establish and practice justice and equality for all members of society. It begins quite generally with the commands, do good and seek justice, but it helps when they're defined in other clauses. Rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Again, sort of doing some translation work into our own time and place, it helps to know that widows and orphans and the oppressed is like ancient code for the most vulnerable people in society, in Israelite society. So today we might say the homeless and addicted as code for particularly vulnerable people. Today we might think of the people, the children of Gaza, whose only access to food is through aid. We might think of refugees and migrant people who rely on dubious and declining legal protections. Seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. It means protecting, uplifting, and empowering those who have little power, those who suffer with little to no means of improving their own lives. God's yes is as unequivocal as the divine no. And holding the two parts of that message together matters because it's the combination of what is rejected and what is required that is the powerful message. Held together, to me, God sounds like a mother who is not impressed by the beautiful Mother's Day card and present when the children have been behaving badly all year long. One day of special treatment doesn't make up for the disobedience or disrespect the rest of the time. Through Isaiah, God pleads, save your prayers and your sacrifices and your festivals. Instead, pay attention to the world in which you live. Rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. It's less that worship or institutional religion or personal piety is wrong or worthless to God per se, and it's more that it is not a substitute for a just and equal society. It's not that a mother or anyone doesn't want to be treated in an extra special way on a birthday or other occasion. It's just that everyday things are more important. When the day-to-day treatment is good, then the special times become even sweeter. The challenge Isaiah offers us today is to not rely on our spirituality in terms of our personal piety or devotional practices or worship and prayer as being the fulfillment of what God wants. That's God's no. The more important part is following in God's way, caring for the vulnerable and the powerless among us in our communities, in our city, our country, and the world. This is God's great yes, working for justice, loving our neighbors, caring for the vulnerable, uplifting the powerless through all of creation. These are the spiritual practices to which God calls us today.